Supervisor Canada, it's good to hear you say that, because tonight what I heard a lot of was really saddening to me. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to upset a lot of you, all of you. But our districts are not individual counties. There's 7 districts that represent and make up Prince William County. And we have to function as a Prince William County. We represent these districts, but I'll tell you right now, any one of you that come through the Neabsco School District, talk to your constituents and ask them how they're doing. And if it's something you can work, and I know you actually work with a few Neabsco School District constituents, this is what this is about. This is Prince William County, and that's what we represent. And right now, folks, I will tell you, Prince William County is sick. Prince William County is sick, and there are 2 things that will heal Prince William County. One is vaccine, the other is revenue. And it takes a holistic approach of this county to figure that out. And we got to get out of these silos of saying that this is my county and I'm going to protect this. And I say that holistically for everyone on this board, because I've pretty much gotten into a discussion with everyone about their district, and it's their district. And I really have a hard time with that, because the only way we're going to get through this is as a county. And so if we believe Prince William strong, then it's Prince William strong. And this dais represents all of that. And we can't sit up here and defend and fight and protect just what's ours. I listened on this whole budget piece we're talking about, and this is Groundhog Day. We do this every year, the same way every year. And I got to say, I haven't ran this by you guys, and I'm going out there to do it, because we need to start looking at revenue in this county in the next 2 years, because we ain't out of this thing for a couple of years. And so I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to ask to waive the rules of procedure, whatever that looks like. Can I have you down there? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because I want to introduce this resolution to initiate a zoning text amendment and zoning map amendments regarding data centers, including but not limited to zoning text amendments to the Data Center Opportunity Overlay District and amendments to the Data Center Opportunity Zone Overlay District map and such other parts of the zoning ordinance as are necessary or appropriate to effectuate the purposes of this resolution. And here's what we got, folks. We just talked about finances and how we need to fund out this county. Now, this is only to look into and figure out where these opportunities may lay. But I'll tell you this. We just talked about a 25 cents data center tax increase. If we get this right, the opportunity is there for us for the long term. And that's what we need to do. And I'm going to say this here, just the last thing I'm going to say. There's 2 things that can happen from here. We can drum up our bases and have issues, or we can literally talk to this county about what we need to do to heal ourselves. Because we cannot continue to go through this budget process and simply fight and defend and push off and keep talking about taxes and residential taxes when the opportunity is there. It's clearly visible what we have an opportunity to do, and we really need to be taking advantage of it. So, I'm presenting this. And, blame me if you need to, but I think holistically we all need to get behind this and have a conversation with our constituents about the opportunities.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Canlon.
can you just explain a little bit more what this is? Is it just initiating because we already have a data center overlay district? Is this just initiating a renewed look at it, or I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's really looking at all the opportunities in the entire county of data center opportunities. So where such power lines exist with the existing infrastructure of it to build or look into, it's looking holistically at the entire county.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Canlon.
So we already have a data center overlay district. So I guess just procedure-wise, is it we would initiate a new zoning text amendment to change modify the? Is that how that would work?
I think we have a zoning text. He's looking for an amendment to that zoning text, so he's initiating a zoning text amendment. Does that make sense?
I guess so.
No, I mean,
looking to redo the data center overlay district. I should be looking at you.
Yes.
You're looking to redo and I guess this is the process that would. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Lawson.
So that's a component of it, but I think there's more to it that Supervisor Angry, maybe I'm wrong, but first of all, is Parag here? our planning director?
Probably.
Is he aware that you were gonna pull this out at,
No.
okay, so he likely isn't here. So what do you mean by such other parts of the zoning ordinance as are necessary or appropriate to effectuate the purpose of this resolution?
So that means if I'm missing anything in what my
Can you-
intent is that,
Can you talk to your microphone?
that means if I'm missing any area of my intent of what I'm looking for, that we'll look holistically at all opportunities of data centers in overlay district or in an opportunity.
Right, so to be clear,
Mhm.
that includes, and no surprise, because I read your quote in the Prince William Times, you're certainly interested in putting them out in the rural area as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm pretty clear on what your intent is.
Yes, and let me be clear on my intent. This is a holistic county problem, and we need to start looking at the whole county. You know, we can't just sit and defend, and I know what you said you ran on, you know, defending with your constituents and your bases, but this is a whole problem, and we need to look at it, because if we can heal our county, this is the way to do it.
What
you know?
what's the whole problem? What
That
do you mean by
we
that?
protect certain
I'm sorry,
areas. Yeah, that we protect certain areas of the county, and we don't look holistically at the whole county. And let's just call it what it is, the rural crescent, you know?
Yeah. So you're okay with that,
Well, and here's what I'm saying, if there are power lines that exist that have an opportunity that we can actually get some generate revenues in this county, then I wanna look at that. Now, what it looks like after that is a discussion that we need to have, but I wanna know where those exist and what that all looks like.
Well, I understand your point, but there's a lot more to it than just the power lines.
Mhm.
There's the environmental impacts. There's you know,
Battlefield.
view shed, battlefield. You have national parks that have an interest. There's far more to it than the power line concept.
Right. I think all that's to be discussed.
Right.
Going down.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Cannon.
And just to, and I understand that this might just start the process, but as many of you could remember, defining the data center overlay district was a very involved process. That was a lot of months of outreach to different stakeholders, and so I mean, I obviously would be I'm very much against this resolution. I mean, I think it's no surprise. I do not believe under any circumstance that we should have data centers in the rural area. There are most counties, well, I shouldn't say most counties, but a lot of counties, especially in Virginia, Maryland, have protected areas that they've designated. We're not going to put industrial. We're not going to put data centers. We're not going to put houses. I mean, ours might be a little bit more restrictive than other areas. So I would be very much against anything that looks to put data centers into the rural area. I don't mind looking at the data center overlay to see if there's other areas in the development area. I've got areas in the Gainesville district that are outside the overlay district, but in the development area, that would absolutely be open to those conversations on looping more land into the data center overlay district in the development area. But and I appreciate you being upfront with this. You know, it's some folks might have just said, "Oh, well, that's not what I really mean." You said, so I would definitely respect that. But I could not support moving data centers into the rural area. And just to disclose to folks, and I think I don't think it. I'll have to talk to the county attorney. I live very close to this project. I know this very intimately. I drive by every single day. It's minutes from my house. I know everyone who lives around there. I know the people who are trying to push this forward. They were pushing for residential, and then now they're pushing for, well, they're actually pushing originally for nothing because they wanted to protect the rural area, and then they wanted to cash out and build homes, but now it's the data centers. I would not be supporting this, and I would hope at a minimum we don't waive the rules of procedure. This is something pretty major, that at least let's take this up at the next board meeting would be my request.
Do we need to vote on waiving the rules of procedure? I guess we do. Okay.
I apologize.
So,
Supervisor Lawson?
well, I'll wait for the clerk to.
So is the intent to vote on this tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, then you would need to waive the rules of procedure and add it to the agenda under supervisor's time to approve. You can do it in one motion, waive the rules of procedure and initiate the zoning text amendment, but it does need to be a motion.
So, am I okay to go now?
Supervisor Lawson?
So Supervisor Angry, has anybody from the planning staff, because this clearly was, written as a resolution, and I would have, did you in your office write this, or did the planning department endorse this? Did they help you write it, county attorney
So I have.
help you write it? Where'd this come from?
I have a great office staff, so I have probably one of the best, cheapest staff in Prince William County, so.
Yeah, so has the county attorney seen this?
Ms. Roble?
Madam Chair, members of the board, as you know, our office will assist each individual board member if you want to bring something for the full board for consideration. This afternoon, we were approached by Mr. Angry's chief of staff. Deputy County Executive Rebecca Horner was working with him on it. She suggested that he include our office on it, so our office did assist with this afternoon.
But we haven't, but the planning department hasn't seen it.
I don't know if Deputy County Executive Horner included the planning department.
Supervisor Angry?
So I guess where I'm going is, you keep saying that, we have a problem, a holistic problem, but you haven't defined what the problem is.
It's real simple. I mean, look, this is Prince William County. All we talk about is each district, and in particular, your 3 districts, and the opportunities that may lay in them that we aren't taking advantage of holistically. We come in here, we talk about lowering taxes, keeping taxes, getting away from residential taxes, and we have opportunity with a commercial tax base that we set at 35% that we can't get there because we're not doing the right thing to get there. We can get to 35%, commercial tax base very easy, and that will solve all of these problems. And if all the constituents of Prince William County who are sick because, as you all pointed out, they're out of work, and I think your quote was, the lion's share of how we fund this county is off the backs of the people. Well, we can get off the backs of the people. And I know you said that, we do this every year and we keep coming back to the residential. But if we're going to keep doing that if we don't look at the opportunity to get away from saying that. And then we'll be right back to talking about this budget cycle once again next year. And I don't want to have this conversation because I know 2 years from now, we can be in a place where Prince William County should be. Bottom line, we probably should have been here 10 years ago. But we aren't. And so there was a reason why we weren't, because we probably were defending, once again, that area out west and just took advantage of the opportunities we found on 234, certain places where there are developments already. But if there's a gold mine opportunity that will literally take Prince William County to the next level and get away from this thing we do every year, then I think we should be investing and looking at it and having a conversation with this board that represents the entire county, not just each district, and go forward with that.
Well, Madam Chair, if I can.
Supervisor Lawson?
Thanks. I can't take you seriously, though, Supervisor Angry. In all fairness, I cannot take you seriously. You had an opportunity to work with us tonight to show some relief to the homeowners, and you rejected it. And you're hard to take serious when you don't even compromise with us when you have the opportunity
So
right in front of you. I'm not done. And secondly, I would also say that, and you're right, the lion's share is on the homeowners. And if we're going to buy down that tax rate on the homeowners, we can certainly do it with a robust data center industry, but that does not mean you just put them wherever they want to go. Loudoun County, who is the world's capital for that industry, is very protective of the rural area, including Chair Phyllis Randall, and it's a bipartisan support of the rural area up in Loudoun County. So if you want to model what Loudoun is doing when it comes to that industry and buying down the real estate rate, I would suggest that you spend more time looking at where they have built data centers, and it certainly is not in the rural area of Loudoun. I think that your idea of changing this to put data centers wherever they want to go is frankly just an absurd development idea, and I don't think that anyone that supports this has any concept of smart land use principles, or I can't take you seriously on, your positions on the environment. There's so many implications to this that for you to whip this out at 1 a.m. tells me that you're just willing to rubber stamp whatever the industry wants with no consideration of all the implications.
So let me say this here first of all, Lawson. I will always take you serious and this board serious. So for you to say you don't take me serious, very offensive, but if that's how you feel and you operate, then go with it. Does not show any form of leadership in my personal book, but if that's what you want to throw at me, then I'll leave it there with you. But I'll always take you and the rest of this board, everybody on it, very seriously with what you're saying and what you're doing. My feelings, my passion of what we're doing here and why I bring this out is because of this right here. We go through this every time. And I'm not going to sit here and grandstand or try to disrespect you or defend whatever. And listen, I represent the citizens of Prince William County, and what we're doing here is not a good representation of how even this budget season and taxes should be laid out for these citizens. You want to get away from residential tax? We need to seriously have a look at this commercial tax base of 35%. And I'm not saying we put them anywhere, so let's not get the wording mixed up. This is, let's look at it and let's be smart about what we do. If the opportunities are there, they're there. And if we want to protect, we can protect. But we need to have that discussion, and we don't. All we say is we're not going to do that over there, or we're not going to do this here. And each of your districts are the most important things to you. And who's looking out for the whole of Prince William County? We can't get by like this. And so your model of attacking me and not taking me serious, not my model. I mean, I'm going to let it go with that, but I appreciate your comments. And I will tell you right now, for all of you on this board, I highly suggest you take me serious when I tell you something, because I'm going to speak it to you from my heart, and I represent everyone. I don't care what party you are, what color you are, what your ethnicity is. This is a problem for Prince William County, and we have an opportunity, and we should be taking that leadership role and fixing it,
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Vega's been waiting. Supervisor Vega.
Supervisor Angry, I respect your opinion. My opinion is that I'm not prepared to vote on this tonight, and I would ask that you extend the courtesy that's been extended to you, that was extended to Supervisor Bailey at our last board meeting, and to give us more time to look at this, to read into it further. Planning hasn't seen this, and I think it's only fair for us to, at the very least, defer this to the next meeting once we've had time to review this, and once the planning office has had the opportunity to also review it.
Supervisor, do you want to say something, Supervisor? Or Supervisor Canlon?
Yeah, I just a couple points. One, I found out about your support of this project in the media. I found out about this resolution a few minutes ago. This is literally in my backyard. You don't know where I live, but this is literally in my backyard, and this is something that will greatly impact my district. I mean, the project you're specifically talking about is in my district. So we want to talk about respecting people. I would just hope something like this would change the landscape of my district. Maybe I get a heads up before it's presented to the board. Maybe I get a heads up before you express your support for a project that will change the landscape of my district before it goes to the press. I appreciate that kind of heads up, I think, before something like that gets introduced. But I definitely understand if it's something you feel passionately about. I do think it's important to underscore, you talk about data centers, you talk about opportunities. Most of the data centers in Prince William County are in the Gainesville and the Brentsville district. It's not even close. It's not like there's some over there and there's some over there. They are in the Brentsville and Gainesville district. There might be a couple over there, but 80+%, probably 90+%, but I don't want to spread misinformation. The vast majority of them are already in our district. We're already putting these in development areas, frankly, in areas that I think we probably could have used for other situations. So to act like the folks who live out in the Western End aren't pulling their weight on the data centers and we're just leaving all this stuff on the table, it's just not true. We are dumping these in the Western End of the county, and we've come to live with that. But to now say, okay, they're all in your development area. Supervisor Canlin, you've got 15 of them in your district, and Supervisor Lawson, you've got 15 in your district, but that's not enough. You need 30 in each one of your districts. And we need to open up the rural areas, so it's not enough to just be in the development area in your district. We need to now open up the rural areas. To say I want to lose 20 pounds, and to get there you cut off your leg, is, yeah, you've lost 20 pounds, but you cut off your leg to do it. So the ends don't justify the means in every situation. And to say, well, we get a good amount of tax revenue from the data centers, so let's put them, or I propose we look at putting them everywhere, is not something that I would support. And I find this really a tough pill to swallow, because all of those concerns that we had when we voted on the Rural Crescent are now coming to fruition. And all those people who said that we were spreading misinformation, it's not going to lead to stuff out in the Rural Crescent, there's this one-time project, you're wrong. And this is what ends up happening. This is extremely disappointing, and something that I will fight tooth and nail on, and I will get people riled up about this, because this will change the landscape of my district, and I'll be darned if I just sit around and let this happen.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Angry, then Supervisor Bailey.
Yeah, and let me be very specific. This is my resolution, so I don't even know how the rest of my board is going to even vote on me waiving the rules of procedure. But I will tell you right now, it's the exact question, a statement I made earlier. You have two options. You can go and rile up your base, or you can go and talk to your base and talk about a holistic county issue. Now, let's go down the road, because honestly, 470,000 people need to know, if we're going to sit in these budget seasons and have these discussions about a flat tax and raising your residential, and you don't want to pay $320-something, then you need to be trying to look at another alternative. And you know, there's your other alternative. We just talked about a 35% commercial tax base. We know that most of the commercial industry is failing, restaurants, hotels, and this is the one thing that we come out and say, well, the data centers made it, so let's take a portion of it, let's increase them. But you haven't taken the opportunity to look holistically. And I didn't say everywhere. Again, don't play on words. But if the opportunity presents itself there, and it's a good presentation to be there, then we need to holistically look at that. You know, and that's my stance on this, because if we got to push forward from here, and we want to bring out, and we want to go through this, then bring 470,000 people, let 27 counties make a decision on what they want to do with their taxes, what they want to do with this budget season, and how they want to proceed forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Angry. Supervisor Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Angry, I commend you for bringing forth the solution. And I commend you because it's a sport. We go back and forth and talk about what we can and we cannot do, and we insult each other, and we need to stop doing that, and we need to be professionals and leaders and talk about it and what we need to do. And this is a big change. This is a big change, but this is a big solution as well. And so if we want to serve at a high level and make sure that we're creating, as Supervisor Vega said, a commercial tax base for the land and not tax our citizens, and have a solution for our citizens and bring forth positive solutions, this is an opportunity to do that. And I don't take kindly to people rounding up troops and to come against me. I don't do that, and I don't do threats. But what I do is leadership and solutions. And so I would like an opportunity to really talk about leadership and solutions. Because before we got here, it was a quagmire. And y'all worked through it together. You worked through it. And so we need to do the same thing on this dais. We need to work through it together. Now, I have to say to you, Supervisor Franklin, Angry, I know who you are. I would have liked to have had an opportunity to discuss this. I would have. I think that's the leadership thing to do. But I'm the kind of leader that I can follow in my leadership and not hate you because you did something before me. Okay, so I applaud you for this solution because this makes life a little lighter with the budget as well. This is what you're saying. And my broader perspective on things says this is what you're saying. It's going to be a big change, like Pete is saying. It's going to be a big change, something to look at. And it gets you out of your comfort zone. But in COVID, we got to get up out of our comfort zone. That's just kind of how I feel about it. And if the citizens can bring to us solutions, I think we need to look at it. That's all I'm going to say.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor-
I didn't get an answer from Supervisor Angry to my question about giving me more time to review this and that we not decide on this tonight, or this morning rather.
I'm all in. I'm going in, and I'm going in for a very, very specific reason. No one has touched this. We haven't moved it. And, if no one wants to, I'll be the one. I'll be the one that goes out. So you can send everybody my way, or we can have a holistic conversation. Either way, something has to give here. Something has to give. This is my third budget. I know you've been doing many of these, but we're going to do this every year under this current format. And we're missing, I think we're purposely missing these opportunities. And so, I'm going.
I just think that we're missing out on an opportunity to really collaborate, if that's what I'm understanding that Supervisor Bailey stated, right? So that we can really look at this further and then bring to you our opinion or perhaps our recommendations. I think we're missing out, that you're not allowing us that opportunity. And so I really do hope that you reconsider before everyone is done giving their opinion.
Supervisor Bodie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have some questions on process, because this is a big change if it were to be effectuated, but understanding what went into the data center overlay district when it was first formed, it sounds like, based on what you said, Supervisor Lawson, that stakeholder groups were engaged and planning worked with a lot of folks throughout the county to say what makes sense from an industry perspective. Where is there existing infrastructure for not just power lines, but also sewer, water, traffic infrastructure, things of that nature. And so my question for you, Supervisor Angry, is your vision of this. Are we going to engage the same people and go through the same vigorous outreach process to look at this?
So I believe that's the purpose of this, for staff to look and see what that looks like, and here's the deal. I would imagine what you just described is what that looks like. We have to go through all that. I mean, you just don't, put a seed down and the building grows and it's done. I mean, there's a whole process that goes to this. So I'm only saying that now, in this budget season of, COVID second year, and we know this is going to be going for a little bit, I think now's the time to look at it, So whatever that looks like, I'm willing to bring this forward and have staff bring it up and do this part and come next week and get the citizens, whatever, and have a discussion about it. Someone needs to say it, so I said it.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Lawson?
I'm sorry, Supervisor Bodie, are you done?
I just
so
had
sorry.
one
Supervisor Bodie.
No, I appreciate that, because in principle, I support us taking a look at the overlay district, and I'm specifically looking for areas that are already ripe for it, but we don't have the overlay district there for whatever reason, because of last time or developments that came about because of a new infrastructure, things of that nature. So in principle, I don't dislike the idea of us taking a look at the map. But I want to make sure we go through the process correctly. And I want to make sure that we're engaging all the folks that we did at the first time around, so they have another say-so in this. But maybe engage new people that weren't involved in the process the first time around. I do want to hear from constituents on this, and I want to hear from county staff on their projections on where the right places to put this are, because I don't want us to sort of run headlong into putting them to what someone said earlier in just random places throughout the county and then live with the infrastructure costs of that later. And I think that when we are talking about putting data centers in different areas of the county, regardless if that's in the rural area versus development area or just different parts of the development area, all of our districts, even within our own districts, have different characters, right? A data center in a larger footprint of a parcel in a larger, more open space area may look different than one that's closer to an urban setting, right? Closer to a suburban setting. We talked about the same thing when it comes to distribution centers, things like that. So I want to make sure that all those things are considerations as we go through this process, and we're not rushing to get this done, because I completely understand where you're coming from, Supervisor Angry, with wanting us to have a new look and making sure that we're maximizing the opportunity of this industry. But I want to do it in a thoughtful way where we're not rushing towards the goal without having a good roadmap in mind.
So, Madam Chair, if
Supervisor Angry.
just the wording again, and this is not a rush. This initiates the process of pretty much what you just said. Now, I'm not the planner to tell you that, but that's what the intent behind this was, to initiate that process, to get all of those new things working. I don't know how long ago we did that original overlay district piece, but is it time to look at it? I always talk about time to look at things again. I said we should relook at some of the school stuff and other different things. And so, you know, people are new to the county. We have new residents in the county. I mean, again, we have 470,000 people in this county. You know, whether this was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I think it's worth, if we want to bring them all out and have a discussion about it, then this initiates that discussion. So, and I do not mind being the one to step out here and push this forward. You know, now, here's the deal. To your point, I didn't bring this to you guys first. I didn't talk to any of you, so I'm going out here on a limb with this and seeing where it'll go with this. But I do 150% truly believe this is our opportunity to take a look at what's going on here. And if there is a way we can increase this revenue in this county, because I'm telling you right now, you can't say one thing and then without having a solution to back it up. We literally are playing in this box every year we do this, and there's no out. And COVID has shown us that, because businesses and the commercial base of hotels and restaurants and that is going to take a while to come back, and this is where we are. So if we don't look at something now, then, you know, hey, that's where we want to go as a board. It's a board, and so, you know, that's what it is.
So legislatively, at least in terms of process, and I hate to keep going back to this, especially since it is, you know, 1:21 at night in the morning. Would this maybe be better suited as a directive to staff to give this to them, to have them then come back to us with recommendations that they see as a way to expand and change the overlay district?
I think that's what this is. What are you saying? Don't.
Because, I mean, this is very, very specific language, and I think that I'm not speaking, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I just think it would make everyone a lot more comfortable, because I get the spirit of it. We want staff to go back and look at a way of expanding and looking at this current scope of the overlay district and expand it, potentially look at new opportunities based on new infrastructure, based on new advances in how they build data centers, because we talked about that in NVRC, things of that nature. But I think to make everyone a lot more comfortable, instead of waiting on this specific language, they issue a directive to have county staff to go back and do that.
All right. So Supervisor Bodie, I just have to say, there are worse positions to be in, to be uncomfortable, and I'm really not trying to make anyone uncomfortable. But I will say at this point with this, you know, I've asked to waive the rules, and if we don't want to do that, I mean, you all have your own right to vote. I really want to push this through, and I'm going to go through with it, and so I'll see what you all want to do, and we'll call it a day at that.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Cannon.
I would absolutely support Supervisor Bodie's idea of having counties. I mean, I don't agree with what we're trying to do here, but I also have been very supportive of, if we direct county staff to come back and give us more information. I mean, this initiates a zoning text amendment. This is quite a thing to waive the rules of procedure to initiate without anyone having seen it at 1 o'clock at night. I would feel much more comfortable having them, you know, staff, start the process, having them come back with additional information. I could support that, but I would not be able to support initiating a zoning text amendment on this.
So do you want to make a motion to waive the rules of procedure? We can vote on that and then we'll go from there.
I did that, yes, Madam Chair. I made that motion to waive the rules of procedure.
Okay. Is there a second?
So did I not get a second the first time I did that? I didn't? Okay.
You didn't.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Canlon.
would Supervisor Bodie like to make give a directive?
Yes. In light of that, I would like to issue to staff a directive to look into the existing data center overlay district and look at new opportunities in light of increased infrastructure, new ways of developing data centers, and frankly, look at this with a renewed way. Again, I appreciate the spirit of this. I think we do need to look at the data center overlay district, but I would like to see it go through the process in a way that engages stakeholders like it did last time, look at new stakeholders, look at new ways we can make sure that we're leveraging, especially a lot of these folks now, especially when they're building data centers, like to embrace green technologies, put solar panels on their campuses. Look at conserving green and open space as they construct these data centers in a more holistic way that also employs more people than we see in some of these older data center complexes. So I hope that's not too much, but I hope you get where I'm coming from, Supervisor Angry. Without objection, anyway.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if the directive is for staff to look into things and then come back to the board for consideration, the question is how much you're wanting staff to look into.
Sure.
If it's to look into coming back with language for a proposed initiation of a zoning text amendment, that's one thing. But to work on a zoning text amendment, for staff to work on all of that, the initiation has to be by a resolution. So I just want to make clear what it is the board is expecting and what you're doing.
Sure, the first one. Sorry to be terse, but it's late. But it's the first one where have staff work through getting the language together for us, and then alongside that, talk about the process once it comes back to the board.
Is it with directive with the idea that we're going to do a zoning text amendment?
Yes.
Can you put that in your directive?
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
And can we put it as a zoning text amendment along high voltage transmission lines?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Canlon.
I don't know why we would hamstring the county staff to specifically along.
Well, the whole idea is the existing data center overlay district is along high voltage transmission lines. It has
But
that verbiage.
we're not asking. I don't think you're saying to limit potential.
Yeah, not to limit.
expansion
It
of
can
the overlay
include
district
including
just
that.
high-
But yeah.
Yeah.
Including that, but not just be constrained to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can it be all high voltage transmission lines throughout the county?
My point is I don't think he is, and I wouldn't be saying let's only put them along high voltage transmission lines. There's other areas that have been up for discussion by county staff and developers alike of other areas to add to that they have electricity that they can get to it.
Well, I don't want to start worrying about running additional lines. The great thing about high voltage transmission lines is you don't have to run additional lines, and that's sort of why I think his ETA.
But there's so
says-
much more, Madam Chair, to connecting to high voltage transmission lines than them just being. You don't just grab a plug and go plug them in there.
And I don't see it.
Just because that's there doesn't mean it
Right.
has any of the other resources.
Right.
You need to create a substation. I mean, there's
Right.
so much that goes into tapping into a high voltage transmission line. It's not a matter of just wheeling up a data center and putting it right next to it.
I spent my career in the energy industry. I know.
Well, it doesn't seem like you do, because it seemed like it's a really easy process
No,
to just
it's not.
put them next to, and why not put them all right next to high voltage transmission lines? Because
Well,
there's so much else that goes to it than just.
The current text actually says high voltage transmission lines in it.
Well, it talks about having the necessary resources and infrastructure around there.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is, and I think Supervisor Bodie's point, is there's other areas that aren't next to high voltage transmission lines that people have been talking about expanding the overlay district into.
Right, and so my point is going back to Supervisor Ingrid's point, to be holistic with this. Yes, we looked at the high voltage power lines, but we looked at other areas that are already conducive to that, that wouldn't put a strain on the electrical network.
So, Madam Chair,
Supervisor Angry.
you mind if I finish my supervisor
Like you sort of used up most of your supervisor
Yeah.
time.
time?
Madam Chair.
I just wanted to say because I was the last one, then we can.
Well, actually, I'm the last one, but
Oh, you're
go
the-
on.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
I haven't
fine.
gone yet either. It's
Yeah,
no.
if I could just make one kind of closing.
Yeah,
statement.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, where are we?
We're not waiving the rules of procedure.
Okay, what are we doing?
I issued a directive
Okay.
in the spirit of his resolution, but that speaks a little bit more holistically and gives more of the ball to county staff as opposed to us rushing to pass something tonight, and allows them to do the work they need to do to draft a good ZTA for us to look at.
But do you have to restate it so we can understand what you issue?
And I mean, I can.
Madam Chair, that's exactly why I have my light on, because I think that there's some confusion, and I, especially for county staff,
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're clear on the intent of the directive. And what I would also
Well, I would actually
encourage
give-
is you mentioned the ZTA or a potential ZTA, but would that include the overlay map? Like, I'm sorry to throw all this on you, but
I was gonna say you could actually, Supervisor Angry. Would you like to change what
No,
you're?
no, Supervisor Bodie, you ran with it. It's good. You know, I want to just close out mine, and then they can take it from there on that. But I want to say this here to all of Prince William County. We're in a time where we have an opportunity to look at revenue, okay? And that's what this is about. So where it goes from here, I have no idea. I already know it in my heart, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to tell you I don't trust anybody on this board. You know, I want us to be the board and work together in this county function that we have to do better for all of Prince William County. So I don't know where this is going, but I'm willing to take a stand to move this thing forward tonight and go through it. But we're now going to go through another process, and I don't know where that's going to take us. But I will tell you this: come next year budget time, you can expect Groundhog Day if we don't do something different. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Bodie. Would you like to clarify your
Yeah.
directive?
Yeah. So, okay. I would like to direct county staff to look at the existing data center overlay district and the existing maps and come forth to us with potential ZTA language on amending that map to expand the overlay district with looking at more opportunities to build more data centers, including high voltage power lines or anywhere else where it's feasible to build data centers. I hope that's clear enough. Any objections?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor King?
I think that's great, and I think it implies that would also come back with the process that it would take
Exactly.
to implement a zoning text amendment, the community outreach, the different stakeholders, opportunities for us to give input on stakeholders. I think Supervisor Bodie's spot on with this.
Yeah, agreed.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Bailey?
I can support it too because it brings clarity to what we, inclusive to what we want to see. So I can support it.
I'm just thinking, do we need a time set? I mean, anyway, not a year from now, I guess is what I'm saying. We have directors that have sit out there for a year. I know Supervisor Canlin had actually already gave a directive with regards to transmission lines and the rural area and data centers. I thought you did that months ago.
I know what you're talking about. No, it was staff to come back. You're right. This was one that hasn't come back to me on to let us know the infrastructure impacts of putting data centers in the rural areas. So what would it mean for water? What would it mean for being able to tap into to those things? So providing us a report on what the environmental and infrastructure impacts on putting them in there. It wasn't, let's create a new map putting data centers in the rural crescent. That's a big difference.
Well, but I guess I'm saying they're already sort of looking at that, hopefully somewhere, right?
And
With-
hopefully
so
it'll take a year for them to come back with with some opportunities.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Lawson?
when was that directive?
It was a directive, I think probably a month or so ago, anticipating that this was coming.
No, it was months ago.
Well,
months ago.
it was after Long Branch, because It was because of that. It was anticipating that data centers were going to be introduced into the rural area, and I wanted to understand what would the infrastructure impacts to that be. How would it be getting water out there in the rural area? What would that mean? What would it
Did you find
mean
his direct-
being able to provide? Was it not?
When was it?
I'm sorry, it looks like you issued the directive October 6th of
Okay,
2020.
so a couple
And it was
months ago.
utility service in rural areas was the.
Yeah. It was October.
No. Utility service in the rural area is different
You
than.
can-
Staff
read it
was
too?
directed to provide the board with an analysis of what level of utility service would be required to support data centers. in
Okay,
rural
okay, that was it.
Yeah, October. It was a while ago.
Feels like a long time ago.
It wasn't. Okay.
It was a long time.
So are we all set tonight? Can I actually do like my wrap up for the evening or whatever? Okay. It's 1:40. Hey, I'll just say, I was lucky enough to be on Sunday.